I had never seen a man crafted with such painful perfection, yet he was the long-held possession of another. Every night, from the deepest part of the Blackwood estate, from the old, isolated summer house, came a muffled suffering that was barely human. Then my employer, Victoria Blackwood, the formidable daughter of the family, finally seized control of the entire Blackwood empire. He thought he had reached the end of a long, dark night. But to cement her new power, Victoria simply handed him over to the bed of another monster. Julian's body was found the next morning in that forgotten summer house, hanging from a gilded beam of dark mahogany. It took a great deal of effort to get him down. The silk cord had dug so deep into his neck it had nearly severed the flesh. They left the body in the center of the room, his white linen shirt stained with blood and crumpled into a ruin. Burns, lash marks, the raw chafe of restraints covered him from head to toe. His face had been slashed, the skin peeled back into a grotesque mask, erasing forever the beauty that had been his curse. Victoria Blackwood, the new queen of the estate, my employer, ordered me to dispose of the body. She never came to see him, not even for a final glance at the man who had sacrificed everything for her. I stood at a distance, then turned to my subordinates, my voice a shard of ice. I told them to wrap him in a tarp and dump him in the landfill. As the body was carried past me, the whispers of the staff found their way into my ears. One remarked that the filthy thing should have died years ago, questioning how he could live with himself after being passed between men for so long. Such a refined, beautiful creature, now just a mutilated corpse with a legacy of filth and shame. And yet, only the night before, he had stood on the veranda, cloaked in the cool light of the moon. Its soft glow outlined his lean, elegant frame. He stood before a vast garden of night-blooming jasmine and, for the first time in all the years I had known him, he offered me a smile. It was sad, but it was gentle. It was the first time I had ever spoken to him. I told Julian that if he wanted to leave, I could help him. I said her name, Victoria, but he looked at me with an expression of unnerving calm. He recognized me, asking if I was Jax, Victoria's head of security. His voice was a quiet murmur. He remembered me. That gentle smile deepened. He told me he couldn't go, that he was waiting for Victoria. I tried to argue, but two of Victoria's men appeared and he went with them without another word. I can still see the faint hope in his eyes as he walked away. But that night, the screams from the summer house tore the darkness to shreds again. As Victoria's most trusted enforcer, I knew she never intended to let Julian go. That's why I had offered him a way out. I had decided then and there that if he wanted to leave, I would risk my life to see him free. But after all the pain he had endured, he still clung to such a naive faith in people. I loved his innocence, but in that moment, I despised it. Dressed in black, I moved through the darkened corridors, following the sounds to the brightly lit summer house. Victoria herself was standing at the door, speaking to a pale, clean-shaven man. She was telling Senator Albright that the Blackwood family's future business with the government was in his hands now. She had delivered Julian to a corrupt politician. Victoria, his broken, trembling sob came through the crack in the door. Why? Through that sliver of light, I saw him. His limbs were bound to the bedposts, his body slick with a mixture of sweat and blood. The tools used on him were scattered across the floor. On Victoria's face, there was only a chilling, predatory smile. After the senator left, satisfied, I slipped into the room. Julian was on his back, his beautiful, almond-shaped eyes wide and empty. There was only silence in them. I knew in that instant that Julian had truly died. The estate was soon crawling with architects and landscapers. Victoria announced that the summer house was unlucky and would be demolished, replaced with a grand pavilion for entertaining political guests. I was just a guard. My only role was to obey. Victoria, nibbling on an imported fig, a rare delicacy, asked me if Julian's body had been dealt with. I kept my head down, my voice flat, confirming that it had been taken to the landfill, where the wild dogs would have likely left nothing but bones by now. She peeled the skin from another fig with methodical slowness. She then stated, not asked, that I had spoken to him that day. I held out my hands to receive the pit she spat out, a cold sweat instantly drenching my back. I kept my eyes lowered and calmly replied that Julian had only been asking when he might be able to see her. She let out a cold snort, dismissing it as a foolish fantasy. She called him a ruined man, dirty and used, who dared to dream of her. Dirty. Ruined. That was the consensus on Julian at Blackwood Manor. Even the lowest of the staff spoke of him with open disgust. The men of his family were all renowned for their looks, and Julian, as the exiled son of a fallen European dynasty, was unparalleled. His family fell when he was 12. At 15, he was found by Victoria, herself an outcast from the Blackwood family at the time. At 16, he was imprisoned in that summer house by Victoria's brother, Marcus, the head of the family. Marcus had told him that if he stayed there and did as he was told, Victoria would be welcomed back to the estate. For that promise, Julian remained in that house for 3 years, trading his body for Victoria's chance to return home. During those years, few people at the manor ever saw him, but the foul rumors about him were constant. Sometimes, when I had a moment, I would climb to the roof and watch him from afar. He was always in a simple, elegant linen shirt, covering himself completely, no matter the season. During the day, he tended to the small garden, read books, or painted. He was so beautiful it was almost dangerous to look at him for too long. But when night fell, that pristine cottage became a chamber of horrors. The cries were relentless, a plea for a life that was not this, for a death that would not come. I tried to save him once. He chased me out with a letter opener. He screamed at me to get out, to never let him see me again, asking what right a thing like me had to interfere. He was both pathetic and infuriating. One night, his screams were longer, more agonizing than ever before, lasting until dawn. A parade of the city's best doctors was called to the manor, and each one left shaking his head. The staff whispered that he'd been punished for helping an old lover escape, that Marcus had worked him over all night, that he probably wouldn't survive. They wondered who would even want a wreck like him. They said Marcus had broken all 10 of his fingers one by one, and still he hadn't given up a name. The words struck me like lightning. He had chased me away to save me. I held a vial of powerful pain medication, unsure of what to do. Fortunately, Marcus had given orders to keep him alive, so the best medical supplies were being sent in. When no one was looking, I slipped my vial in with the others. The day I learned he had survived, I finally breathed again. I went to the roof to see him. He was still as beautiful as ever, but quieter, like a flawless statue that had lost its soul. But the peace didn't last. Soon, the screaming began again, night after night, a cycle of torment, until the day Victoria took control of the empire from Marcus. In those first few weeks of her reign, he came alive. A light returned to his eyes that I hadn't seen in years. He waited every day for her to visit him. He waited for a full month. After that month, I went to him and asked if he wanted to leave Blackwood Manor. Instead, he went with the men Victoria sent for him. He thought he was finally walking out of his prison and toward the woman he loved. He never imagined that she was personally leading him into the jaws of a different beast. In that moment, he finally understood. He was just a pawn she had used to climb to the top. Not even a pawn, just a cheap toy. He asked her why. Victoria stared at her perfectly manicured nails and said coolly that a pretty face's only value was its skin. She asked him why else he thought she had rescued him all those years ago. She called him a naive, fallen prince, and asked him who else deserved hell if not him. I stood behind her and watched the light in his eyes go out, never to return. Victoria's renovation of the grounds was meant to erase every trace of Julian's existence. But I had to try something. Otherwise, he would vanish from the world without a ripple. No one knew that on the day Julian died, someone else was truly born. Soon, officials came to the manor. The man I had sent to leak the story was brought before Victoria, his arms pinned behind him. Senator Albright followed him in. Victoria immediately put on a smile, graciously welcoming him and apologizing for the trouble her disobedient subordinate had caused. Before she could finish, I kicked my operative hard in the chest. A poison-tipped needle hidden in the sole of my shoe pierced his heart. He gasped, his eyes bulged, and dark foam spilled from his lips before he collapsed. I immediately dropped to my knees, begging my employer's forgiveness and offering to accept my punishment. As I was dismissed, Senator Albright grabbed my arm. His cloying voice remarked on what a handsome boy I was. A chill shot up my spine. Julian had endured an entire night of this. I looked at Victoria, sweat beading on my forehead. Her expression was unreadable. She clapped her hands, and a heavy wooden chest was brought in. When opened, it was full of bearer bonds. The senator released me with a greedy smile, telling Victoria that if any more trouble arose, she shouldn't hesitate to call. After he left, I remained kneeling. A porcelain teacup flew through the air and shattered against my forehead. She walked slowly toward me and crouched down, telling me to pick up the pieces. A drop of my blood fell onto a snow-white shard. She placed her hand over mine, which was clutching the sharp porcelain, and squeezed. Harder, and then harder, until my own blood seeped between my fingers. I clenched my jaw and made no sound. She stared into my eyes, then slowly released her grip, a beautiful smile spreading across her lips. Her voice was as light as a feather as she told me that because of me and my men, she had lost a great deal of money. She asked what I thought should be done about it. I took the blood-soaked shard from my palm and dragged it across my own face until my vision was red. I told her I knew my mistake. She patted my head approvingly, her eyes shining with a frightening light. Human life was worth nothing to the mistress of Blackwood Manor. I lowered my eyes, looking at the cooling corpse on the floor, and ruthlessly suppressed the venomous hatred rising in my heart. From that day on, no one at the manor dared to speak Julian's name. It was as if he had never existed. At the same time, no one dared to underestimate Victoria Blackwood. She was, after all, the woman who had personally broken her own brother's fingers, one by one. I had been there, behind her, listening to Marcus's agonizing screams, and I thought of Julian, wondering if it had hurt that much for him. As we left, I deliberately stepped on Marcus's shattered hands. He was already too broken to cry out. I ground my heel into them. Still no sound. He was already gone. It turned out a person could die from pain. The cottage that was once soaked in Julian's blood was transformed. The world's most prized rose varieties were transplanted into the garden, and Victoria hired expert gardeners to ensure they bloomed year-round, a defiance of nature itself. The reputation of Blackwood Manor grew, and with Senator Albright's covert support, the powerful and wealthy flocked to it. Business boomed. Outsiders praised Victoria's brilliant acumen. Only I knew what a demonic soul resided within that beautiful exterior. For 2 years, a stream of beautiful young men was sent to Senator Albright's bed. I helped Victoria dispose of one vibrant young life after another. Each time, she would lift my chin with her sharp nails and tell me, in a tone of granting a great favor, that if it weren't for her, I would be one of them. I would lower my eyes and express my gratitude, and only then would she dismiss me. 2 years taught me how to survive in her world. One day, after cleaning up her latest mess, I entered Victoria's private wing to report. I overheard a man's voice. He was whining about having advised her for 5 years, asking when he could finally be with her properly. 5 years? Did that mean even Julian and Victoria's first meeting was part of his calculation? Through the ornate door, I heard Victoria's light, seductive laugh as she told him not to be too greedy. The name she said was Leo. Leo, Julian's personal bodyguard. The one who had supposedly died a loyal, heroic death. So he had betrayed his master for his own gain, a perfect escape act. Sure enough, a few days later, I had a new master. Leo, suddenly elevated to Victoria's bedfellow, was insufferable. He acted like the lord of the manor, lashing out at the staff for the smallest infraction. Even I suffered his deliberate provocations. He began wearing the simple linen shirts Julian had favored, letting his hair grow long in a poor imitation of that effortlessly elegant man. He tried to tend the roses and read classic literature. The result was a bed of dead prize roses and a mountain of wasted, expensive tea. The fool didn't understand that the flaw was not in the appearance, but in the soulless mimicry. Because of Leo's clumsy imitation, Julian's memory was subtly revived. Even if the staff only dared to refer to him as that man, the image of his clear, moon-like grace was seared into their minds. This made Leo even more jealous. An endless supply of linen shirts was delivered to the manor. One day, I deliberately chose the moment the estate manager was presenting the accounts to bring in a stack of newly tailored shirts. Victoria was questioning the manager about a $2,000 discrepancy in the month's expenses. I stepped forward, presenting the clothes and addressing Leo, saying these were the new garments he had ordered. Victoria shot me a look, asking why I, the head of security, was bothering with such menial tasks. I knelt without a word. Her anger flared as she demanded an explanation. I lowered my head further, holding the shirts up high. She snatched them, flipped through them, and then threw them all to the floor in a rage. She demanded to know who authorized them. Anything related to Julian was taboo. The estate manager, seeing his chance, bowed and explained that the extra $2,000 were for Leo's new wardrobe and to replace the dead roses. He added that everything I had been doing recently was on Leo's orders, and that I had been whipped 3 times this month alone for perceived failures. Leo's face went white. He fell to his knees, shooting a venomous look at the manager. The manager was an old family retainer who had secretly helped Victoria in her early days. His position was unassailable. Victoria's voice was like steel. She told me that in Blackwood Manor, I was to obey her and only her. I replied that I understood. She then sentenced Leo to 50 lashes. He started to protest and she raised it to 70. He fell silent, his eyes burning with hatred for me. I kept my face impassive. Victoria then instructed the manager that from now on, Leo's expenses would be strictly regulated. Anyone caught misappropriating funds for him would be fired. Her eyes swept over the discarded shirts. She ordered them burned, decreeing that such things should never be seen in her home again. That night, Victoria came to my quarters herself, bringing an antiseptic cream. It was the same brand I had secretly given to Julian. I froze, cold sweat soaking through my shirt. She knew. She said that my little act of charity all those years ago had kept that person alive a bit longer. She told me nothing happened in her manner without her knowing. But, she continued with a smile, because I had saved him, she was able to use his body to buy herself more time. I felt like I'd been plunged into ice. She said she would overlook the past, and that she even enjoyed seeing me use her to strike back, as I had today. Her people, she purred, should have some spirit. Her breath was on my ear, her voice a low whisper. But she warned me to never, ever turn those schemes against her, or she would make me regret being born. I told her I understood. After she left, I stared at the cream on my desk. The moonlight was as clear as water. I thought of him again. The first time I saw him, I was also hiding in the shadows. He was a prince of sunlight and grace, the favored son of a powerful family. I was assigned to be his shadow, his secret protector, the best operative my agency had. Not even Leo knew I existed. On the day his family fell from power, I carried him unconscious through the chaos. I followed him until he met Victoria. All love begins with a look. The moment I saw him look at her, I knew. He looked at her the same way I looked at him. Love makes you irrational. He followed her without a second thought. By the time I managed to get a job as a guard at Blackwood Manor, he had already been Marcus's prisoner for a long time. When I tried to rescue him, he saved me instead. That night was his nightmare, and it became a wound in me that would never heal. That bright, beautiful boy must have truly wanted to die that day. So, in saving him, I had actually damned him. The self-recrimination was a physical pain. A cool, long-fingered hand covered mine. I spun around. The moonlight outlined the figure before me. Julian. The name escaped my lips, filled with a joy I hadn't realized I still possessed. The man who had died 2 years ago was standing before me, whole and alive. That day, I had personally scarred the face of the decoy corpse for this very moment. He was dressed in black, blending with the night. His face was different, his body stronger, more solid. He had lost that ethereal beauty, replaced by the deep stillness of an ancient lake. The day of the surgery, I heard him tell the doctor to give him the most ordinary face possible. I knew then how much he hated the beauty that had destroyed him. But he didn't realize that even without that face, his aura was still captivating. He told me not to blame myself. His voice was low, imbued with a weary wisdom. He explained that if he hadn't endured those final days, he would have died still believing in a lie, blind to the nature of the woman he loved. My throat tightened. I took his hands, rubbing them between my own. Ever since that night his fingers were broken, they had never been warm again. Over the past 2 years, it had become a ritual for me to warm his hands whenever we met. Seeing his calm, empty expression now, my heart ached with a familiar pain. Hatred seeped into my bones. Suddenly, Leo decided to become a scholar. He spent his days in Victoria's library, but a business family like the Blackwoods had few rare books. He started sending people out to buy them. I deliberately chatted with the estate manager within his earshot, mentioning that the younger Blackwood children needed a tutor and Victoria was having trouble finding a suitable one from the elite academic circles who looked down on new money. As I expected, Leo begged Victoria to hire a private tutor for him. Not an elite scholar, just a simple man from a humble background would do. Soon, a young teacher was invited to the manor. 2 months later, Leo had transformed. He carried himself with a certain quiet dignity. Whenever I saw him, I would offer compliments, remarking on how scholarly he looked, how much more refined he appeared now that he had lost weight. He became smug, and on top of his obsessive reading, he cut his meals in half. One evening at dinner, he appeared in a flowing, loose-fitting robe, fanning himself with a paper fan, the picture of delicate frailty. Victoria stared at him, frowning. She asked if he wasn't getting enough to eat, why he looked like a ghost. He insisted he was fine, but she cut him off, saying he looked weak and useless, with no energy to serve her. I stood nearby, my eyes downcast. She told him he had 3 days to gain back the muscle he'd lost or get out of her manor. Leo froze, his face ashen. He had been a bodyguard, he was muscular by nature. That's what Victoria liked. It was laughable that after all his years at her side, he had never understood her tastes, only blindly imitating the man he betrayed. As I was silently observing the farce, Victoria's gaze suddenly landed on me. "Jax," she said, "you'll attend to me tonight." My heart hammered against my ribs. I knelt immediately, protesting that my scarred face was unworthy of her sight. She stepped forward, her long, slender fingers tracing the collar of my shirt. I didn't dare move, cold sweat pouring down my back. She asked if I was daring to disobey her. I choked out that I wouldn't dare. She commanded me to get myself clean and wait for her there. Leo, still on his knees, glared at me with pure venom. I almost laughed. To finally get what you've schemed for, only to have it slip through your fingers. Leo was finally tasting that bitterness. That night, I did not end up in Victoria's bed. A business crisis erupted in the city, and she had to handle it personally. On her way back, she met a businessman named Clay. He perfectly matched the twisted preferences buried deep in her soul. And just like that, Leo and I were forgotten. I had never seen Victoria so indulgent, almost submissive, with anyone. This man, Clay, was at the manor for over a month and never once shared her bed. If he didn't want to, she didn't force him. A constant stream of lavish gifts flowed to his private suite. He spent his days practicing swordsmanship, tending to the garden, and reading. Victoria even gave him the few rare books she had acquired for her collection. This blatant favoritism drove Leo mad with jealousy. He provoked Clay several times, and each time was sent flying by a single, non-lethal sword stroke. When Victoria found out, she had Leo severely punished. No one in the vast estate dared disrespect Clay again. Everyone knew he was the master's favorite, the one she tolerated icy indifference from. But he still didn't want to stay. Victoria, at a loss, ordered me to be his shadow, to never leave his side. And so, I was finally able to speak with him freely. I told the young master he shouldn't have come back, that she might recognize him. Of course, the man was Julian, returned with a new identity. He reached out and gently traced the scar on my face, telling me not to risk myself for his revenge. He said these stolen days with me were something he wanted to savor. I silently took his cold hands in mine, my thumbs carefully, tenderly rubbing the knuckles that had been broken, until a little warmth returned to them. I placed a small hand warmer in his palm. The Blackwood businesses were facing frequent problems, and Victoria was swamped. But every day, no matter how late, she would come to his suite. If he was there, he would offer a cup of tea. When she left, he offered no parting words. It was the same man, yet Victoria was obsessed with this unattainable version. Soon it was Victoria's birthday. The wives of many powerful officials came bearing gifts. Even Senator Albright came in person. Once everyone was seated, the music paused. Clay entered, dressed in a simple white shirt, a sword at his side. The senator's eyes practically glued themselves to him. He asked Victoria in his reedy voice where she had found such a specimen, so different from the others. Victoria's face darkened. I shifted my position, subtly blocking the senator's view. Clay maintained his air of cool detachment. Only I saw him clench his jaw. Victoria stood and personally led him to the seat of honor beside her, pouring his wine, serving him his favorite dishes. She doted on him, and he accepted it all with a placid indifference that only seemed to fuel her devotion. I stood behind them, watching the astonishment on the faces of the guests. Senator Albright's face was a mask of cold fury. He knew this one was not for him. Leo was drowning himself in wine, his eyes swimming with hatred. He couldn't understand why this man was allowed to wear the white shirt, why his coldness was rewarded while Leo's devotion was scorned. After a few rounds of drinks, Victoria announced that from that day forward, Clay would be the sole master of Blackwood Manor. An elder of the Blackwood clan objected, questioning the status of a man with no known background. Clay spoke, his voice void of emotion. He stated that he had never wanted to be the master of the manor. Their matriarch had begged him. As for his identity, the old man was not worthy to know it. He added that if the elder could convince Victoria to let him go, he would leave immediately. He put down his glass as if to rise. A collective gasp went through the room. Victoria gently pushed him back into his seat, whispering a few placating words before turning a furious glare on the elder. She warned him that it was not his place to question her decisions and that one more word would have severe consequences. No one dared to speak, except for Julian. He calmly raised his glass in a toast to Victoria. Then he refilled it and walked to Senator Albright's table. The senator raised his glass. Just as they were about to touch, Clay flicked his wrist, and the amber liquid splashed onto the cold stone floor. He spoke, his voice clear and cutting. He said that last month, a 15-year-old boy named Chris was carried out of the senator's private residence. He was my brother. This drink is for him. May he find peace. The room fell into a dead silence. Everyone knew about the senator's proclivities, but he was the emperor's man. The senator's small, cunning eyes darted around. He noted that it was a shame about Chris, then thanked Victoria for her sacrifice. His words were laced with insinuation, a veiled threat that she wouldn't dare choose a plaything over their mutually beneficial arrangement. Clay met his gaze without flinching. Victoria's face was black. The more they tried to bury the truth, the more he dug it up. He had heard, he continued, that to advance her career, the matriarch had once delivered a young man who loved her to her brother's bed. And later to Senator Albright. He turned his sharp gaze on Victoria. He asked her if he would suffer the same fate. If, as master of the manor, he would be allowed to avenge his brother. Victoria finally snapped, slamming her glass down and ordering him to be silent. He smiled and nodded. Then please, he said, let me leave. What use is being the master of this place if I cannot even seek justice for my own blood? The senator stormed out. The party was ruined. But Victoria simply patted Clay's shoulder and praised him for a job well done. Of course it was. She had long grown tired of the senator's increasing demands and wanted to sever ties without getting her own hands dirty. The Blackwood Empire no longer needed a corrupt politician to secure its interests. But the mention of Murong Qingyan of Julian had still struck a nerve. Clay was unconcerned. As he left, he asked her why she was so haunted by a man she supposedly didn't care about. He mused that even he, a man, had been captivated by Julian's grace. He concluded that it was simply her merchant's instinct that had led her to make the most profitable choice. Her obsession with Clay was just a way to grasp at a phantom, a shadow of Julian that was not, and could never be, him. The party was over. I went to her bedroom. The door was ajar. She was sitting in the dark, stroking a white linen shirt with an embroidered bamboo leaf pattern on the cuff. It was the last thing she had made for him before giving him to Marcus. I'd heard the staff whisper about a time, long ago, when Julian and Victoria had been an idyllic couple. A time before I had worked my way into her inner circle. They said she had been devoted to him, giving him the best of everything even when she had nothing. Until her mother, an unacknowledged mistress, died in her arms because Marcus had forbidden anyone from providing medical care. Marcus had also been taken with Julian, so he offered a deal, Julian, in exchange for her return to the family. Once a person tastes power, they see others as nothing more than insects. That was the Blackwood way. So Julian became a sacrifice on the altar of their ambition. Love followed by exploitation is far more sickening than simple betrayal. And the worst part was her pretense of sentimentality, a way to convince herself she wasn't a monster. Watching her stroke that shirt, a violent, murderous urge seized me. He was the person I would have gladly damned myself to protect. How dare she? I dug my nails into my palms, the pain barely enough to stop me from drawing my sword. Killing her would be too easy. I wanted her and everyone who had ever hurt him, along with this cannibalistic manner, to pay for every drop of his blood, for every moment of his humiliation. To please him, Victoria gave Julian the keys to the manor. A fallen prince running the Blackwood estate was like a master surgeon with a scalpel. Unlike Victoria's iron fist, he ruled with a shrewd mix of kindness and authority. Within a month, the estate ran more efficiently than ever. Victoria, free of domestic concerns, focused on expanding the business. The higher they climbed, the harder they would fall. But his reforms created enemies. He cut the allowances of the extended family and had me personally drag the degenerate Blackwood heirs out of brothels. They accused him of embezzling funds to support his own lavish lifestyle. He threw the account books on the table, declaring that he hadn't spent a single cent of Blackwood money. He told them he had his own businesses, and while they couldn't compare to the Blackwood Empire, he didn't need their money. He said he didn't even care what their matriarch thought, let alone them. Leo, of course, suffered the most. His allowance was cut by 2/3, making his position at the manor untenable. He tried to appeal to Victoria but couldn't even get an audience with her. As Julian's former guard, he deserved a nudge in the right direction. I found him and told him that Victoria had never forgotten Julian. I mentioned seeing her with an old piece of his clothing. I suggested that as the person who knew Julian best, he was in the perfect position to win her favor again. Clay, after all, was just a substitute. Leo did not disappoint. He managed to win his way back into Victoria's good graces. He was smug, not realizing she was only using him to warm her bed because she was being rebuffed by Julian. He was, and always would be, a replacement. At the year-end family banquet, with representatives from several powerful families present, Leo made his fatal mistake. He wore the treasured linen shirt, the one with the bamboo embroidery, and perfectly mimicked Julian's posture and expression from years ago. The older staff members froze, a ghost suddenly in their midst. Senator Albright's eyes narrowed with renewed interest. Only Victoria smiled, a dangerous, beautiful smile. I knew she was incandescent with rage. When the senator's withered hand closed around Leo's wrist, Victoria spoke. Since the senator admired him so much, he was a gift. Leo looked up, his face a mask of horror and disbelief. Julian, sitting nearby, added casually that a cheap imitation was merely an embarrassment. He shook his head, lamenting the waste of good fabric. Leo was a trained bodyguard, he fought back. But I was the prince's secret protector, the best of the best. I dislocated his arms in a matter of seconds. That night, Julian and I were on the roof of Senator Albright's private residence. I hadn't wanted him to come, afraid the memories would consume him, but he insisted. He told me that revenge was the only reason he was still alive, that there was nothing he couldn't face now. I held his hand as we lay hidden. Inside, Leo's screams echoed one after another. The louder he screamed, the more satisfying it was. And the more satisfying it was, the faster my tears fell. I had waited so long for this day. But revenge is the most useless obsession. Can't mend broken bones or grow a new heart. It's a justice that arrives too late to ever warm the hands that were shattered. I looked at him, his face a landscape of infinite sorrow. The past can never be escaped. When Senator Albright finally emerged, we slipped inside. The room was a wreck, the air thick with the smell of blood and filth. Leo was naked and bound to the bed, a gag in his mouth, his body a canvas of fresh and old wounds. To prolong his own pleasure, the senator had drugged him. He was still semi-conscious. I saw Julian flinch. The scene was too cruel a mirror. I pulled him behind me, telling him I would handle this. I took out a familiar vial of antiseptic and began carefully treating Leo's wounds. He struggled against his bonds. We couldn't let him die so easily. But as I worked, I suddenly understood what my own act of mercy, that vial of medicine, had meant to Julian years ago. It hadn't saved him. It had only pushed him back into hell. My heart felt as if it were blistering from the inside. I bit down hard, forcing back tears. Leo's survival astounded Senator Albright. His new toy's endurance excited him. Leo's good days were just beginning. Less than a week later, when we returned, he was on the verge of a complete breakdown. He begged us to kill him. I reminded him that his former master, Julian, had endured 3 years of this because of him. He flinched, then rasped, asking who we were. I leaned in close, telling him that a dog who betrays his master will always meet the butcher. He asked how I knew. His voice was filled with despair. I leaned closer to his ear, whispering not to worry, he would know soon enough. I slowly pulled down my mask. Julian did the same. Leo's eyes widened in terror. "Jax, Clay, you knew each other all along." He demanded to know why. I told him coldly that he had been Julian's guard, and I had been the Emperor's shadow, assigned to protect the young prince. His trembling gaze shifted to Julian. He stammered that he had been by his side for years. How could he not recognize him just because of a new face? Julian spoke, his voice calm. Leo's face lost all color. You're not dead." After a long silence, he understood. "You're here for revenge. You knew it was me." I shook my head, telling him that when I heard of his heroic death, I had even set up a memorial for him. Who could have imagined it was all a lie to cover up his treason? The rage I had suppressed for years finally erupted. I told him he grew up with Julian, who treated him like a brother. Anyone could have betrayed him, but not Leo. I demanded to know how he could have pushed him into hell. He thrashed like a cornered animal, his eyes red with crazed resentment. He screamed that because he grew up with him, he had to watch him live in luxury, high above everyone else. He wanted to destroy him, to drag him down from the clouds. He yelled about why, even after Julian was dead and his name was mud, people like me still worshipped him like a saint. Why, no matter how hard he tried to imitate him, he could never win Victoria's eye. I grabbed his hair, yanking his head back, and pressed a poisoned needle to his throat. I told him that as a shadow agent, I had certain skills. The poison on the needle was called Beauty's Kiss, the same concoction his new master had used on Julian and the other boys sent to the senator. It had been his idea. I asked if he wanted to taste it. There was no antidote. Leo began to shake violently, babbling that it wasn't him, that Victoria had ordered it. He begged me to go after her, after Albright, to let him go. He could help me. He didn't want to live just a quick death. A quick death? I laughed. Julian hadn't even had the right to ask for that. The needle plunged into his neck. He writhed in agony, but his limbs were bound. I used a pressure point technique to paralyze him, ensuring he would feel everything without being able to pass out or die. I crouched down, my voice terrifyingly calm. I wondered aloud what would happen if the Emperor's venerated old dog were found dead with a traitor from a fallen dynasty. If that would be enough to bring Victoria and her gilded family crashing down. And if not, I produced a thick ledger. It contained the signed confessions of every boy the Blackwood family had procured for the senator, boys I had managed to rescue and hide away over the years. Watching the last glimmer of hope die in his eyes, I stood up. I told him to enjoy the long night ahead. Tomorrow, his grand performance would be the talk of the town. He made a choking sound, his eyes fixed on me, forcing out a few broken words. He wanted a needle. He couldn't be the only one to taste this. Of course. A rotten soul drags everyone else down with it. I gave him a needle and told him how to use it. That night, hidden in the shadows, we watched the show. We saw the powerful old man writhe and scream in agony from the poison before collapsing, naked and dead, on top of Leo's equally dead body. The scandal was an explosion that rocked the capital. The Blackwood family, with its deep ties to the senator, was the primary target. The old, buried story of the hidden prince, Julian, was dredged up. The news that the Blackwoods had harbored a member of the fallen dynasty was the final matchstick. The old emperor was furious, ordering a full investigation. In the public trial, Victoria confessed to everything she had done to Julian. The filth of Blackwood Manor, the viciousness of its matriarch, was laid bare for all to see. In the end, bowing to public outrage, she was sentenced to death by 1,000 cuts. The executioner was a master of his craft. The condemned would not die before the 1,000th stroke. Perhaps the story of the young prince had moved him. He did not grant her peace until the 1,206th cut. On the day of the execution, Julian and I stood in the crowd below the platform. We watched without blinking, counting every single cut. As the last one fell, Victoria struggled to lift her head, her eyes locking on Julian. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. We saw what she said. "Julian, I paid you back. But a life for a life means nothing when the dead cannot return." The roses at Blackwood Manor withered overnight. Julian stood on the veranda, holding a hand warmer. I placed a heavy coat over his shoulders. He turned his head slightly, his fingers tracing the scar on my face. "Jax," he asked, "was it worth it?" "It was," I answered without hesitation. "From the first moment I saw him from the shadows, my life has been for him alone. I failed to protect his first life. To clear his name and avenge him in this one is all I could ask for." I took his hands, warming them in mine. Suddenly, drops of blood splattered onto my skin. I looked up in shock. Blood was pouring from his mouth. I caught him as he fell, my hands uselessly trying to wipe away the crimson tide. "Jax," he gasped, "I can't walk this earth any longer." He grabbed my coat, using his last ounce of strength to pull me close, pressing a bloody kiss to my lips. "I'm sorry." His eyes fought to focus on my face. "I love you." My body seized. My eyes burned, but I refused to let a single tear fall. I had heard him. I pulled his cooling body tighter against mine. "Don't be afraid, my prince," I whispered. "Jax is coming with you." The short blade hidden in my sleeve slid free. A flash of cold light, a sharp, deep pain in my chest. I held him, lowering my head to kiss his forehead. In the next life, I vowed, I will find you sooner, and I will protect you. In the depths of Blackwood Manor, the roses turned to dust. The snow began to fall, burying all the world's filth, leaving only 2 small piles of ash, in a forgotten corner, holding each other in an eternal, silent embrace.